Welcome to another episode of Southern Arizona's Nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community. We're broadcasting live today on the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, from the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway in Tucson, Arizona. It's brought to you today by SCIP, SSCIP, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool, ensuring nonprofits like ours for more than 3.5 decades. I'm Barbara McClure, Executive Director of Impact of Southern Arizona, host of this show, and with me today are two community leaders from organizations that provide valuable resources for fostering families. Perhaps you have a friend who's fostering, or know a grandparent who's raising a grandchild. Maybe you've thought of fostering yourself but have questions about what it's like. These gals have the answers for you. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Grace Stocksdale, Executive Director and founder of More Than a Bed.
Hi, Barbara. Thank you.
You're welcome, Grace. Thanks for joining me today. And Tara Beck, she's a supervisor at La Paloma Family Services.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. And today we're talking about foster care, and partly because I just had a donor recently come into Impact to give us a charitable contribution for his tax credit. And he said, now I've got my school chosen, and now I have to find a foster care group. So I gave him both your names, and I thought, well, as we're coming to the countdown on the tax credit in general, I thought for people who are out there looking for a great foster care option, here are two to choose from. So we'll see what happens. And you have until the
Terrific.
18th, April 18th this year. And if you give on April 20th or May, you can use it on your 2023 taxes or 2022 taxes filed in 23. That's it. So I thought I would start off with, Tara, if you could share with me, I know I was going to add also that you are a former clinician on the child and family team at La Frontera. And so for a lot of people, they probably have heard of La Frontera and La Paloma, but might not know they're merged. So if you could tell us a little bit about both and their relationship.
Yeah, La Frontera offers lots of services in the community, a lot of behavioral health stuff. La Paloma Family Services is a licensing agency for foster families. So we work we work in similar ways. We both encourage continued education with families, and La Paloma specifically with foster care in the community.
Very nice. And so if you're a foster parent or foster family, then you're going to head over to La Paloma versus La Frontera.
Well, you could be at both.
Okay.
La Frontera offers lots of services, counseling services, family support services, to name a few. Me personally, at my role at La Frontera, I'm a clinician there. I still am a on-call clinician, so I still have a small caseload where I work with mostly children who have suffered from like abuse, neglect, or maybe are adopted. So trauma, right?
Sure.
And then at La Paloma, I'm now the supervisor there, working a lot with our therapeutic foster families and helping support them with children placed in their homes in a therapeutic setting.
Very nice. What a great resource to have. I think if I were considering fostering, that would be my one concern would be I hear that foster kids go from sometimes from foster family to another foster family or from a care situation, or maybe they're under the guardianship of someone temporarily. And I think, gosh, those kids who move around so much and seem like they would have a lot of struggles, they must be tough to foster in the end.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like the more a child is moved within the foster care system, every movement is a trauma in itself. When you have a child come into care, they're placed in a foster home, which would kinship care obviously would be the ideal situation because it maintains a lot of those community connections that they might already have. If kinship isn't available, then they look for a foster family. And if that's not available, then they move to like group homes. But yeah, as children move around, it intensifies it with every move. So the goal for like La Paloma would be to help support our foster parents through those behaviors, through what they're seeing, provide them that support so that they can hopefully eliminate some of that movement and then more contain, I guess, what the child's going through. I guess contain's probably not the right word, but if that makes sense.
I think it kind of does, and help alleviate it or get some tips from you on how to deal with those kids and how to help them as they struggle with that trauma.
Yeah. At La Paloma, we have some of our staff have been foster parents themselves. I myself am a foster adoptive parent as well. So before working in even behavioral health as a clinician, I was a foster parent. So when it comes to being able to support a foster family, I feel like we're well staffed to do that, and hopefully can provide that support that the families are needing.
That's great. Nothing to have that boots on the ground experience, to be able to relate to people and have some empathy for the situation. That's very exciting. Well, thank you for doing that. That's a neat thing. And I think it's neat to know that that's in our community, because both organizations have been around a long time, haven't they?
La Paloma has been around for about 40 years, according from what I know. La Frontera as well has been around over, I think, 50 years. So, but More Than a Bed.
More Than a Bed is only a little 8 years old.
Oh, that's true. I remember when you were starting.
That's right. That's right. So 2014.
And Grace and I met many years ago at the very beginning when she was just putting it together through Connection.
And knew nothing.
That's right. And it was with a connection through the Optimist Club. Mm-hmm. And I thought, gosh, what an interesting thing to even come up with. So Grace, tell us a little bit about More Than a Bed. And how you got there. Why
how we got there.
It?
Well, it was initially started to provide the essential items that foster families needed for the children in their homes. So you get, and this is for any foster kinship or adoptive family, when you take on a new placement as either a kinship or a foster family, there are things that this child needs, such as beds or cribs or toddler beds in general, clothes, pajamas, toys, shoes, household good, all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
So the idea is, once I realized that foster families were putting out somewhere between $200 and $800 initially, just for one child, then it was okay. So we need to try to figure out a way to help the family for the child.
Right.
The ultimate goal is for the child.
Definitely.
So that the premise is that if we can help the family, then with the financial stress, some of the financial stress, then they can then spend more great time with the children. The stuff that the kids really need.
Sure.
That knowing that they're safe, knowing that they're okay. Really important.
Oh, I bet.
Because most of these kids, as we know, are damaged. And there are many people that don't want damaged kids.
Right.
But all you need to do is sit down with them. Sit down with them.
Oh, yeah.
Help them.
Just
help
talk
them work
to
through this. Talk to them. Listen to them.
Sure. Well, I think it's interesting, too. We have this at Impact where we try to stabilize families so that, like you're saying, they can focus on the other things and they not have those major worries. Mm-hmm. And I think about those kids who transition from one home to another or till they finally get kind of a more permanent placement. And, it's nice. They move all the time with their things, and they don't have many things that they necessarily move with. I was in the junior league, and up in Washington, we had a project where we made them boxes to carry their stuff and special bags that they could keep forever, so they had a sense of belongings. And I'm sure that that's really important, too, in what you're doing, because I know when you go to the warehouse and you can pick those things, and they come back to the family home and they get their own things that are theirs and that belong to them. They're not in somebody else's bed or somebody else's clothes.
Well, I can tell you stories. We have children that have slept with Auntie and her boyfriend,
Sure.
a 5-year-old little girl. No, that's not so healthy.
No.
Or that we have great-grandparents and grandparents that they retired. They weren't ready for this kind of thing. So they live in a one-bedroom apartment. Now what? So they need a bunk bed. They need, all these things for these children that they're not prepared for. And at the age of 70 or more, taking care of infants or toddlers or even teens.
Sure.
Not an easy feat at all.
No.
Especially with some of the mental baggage that they carry.
Sure. We have that at Impact. We have a lot. We noticed prior to COVID there was a huge growth in grandparents raising grandchildren. And I want to add, because when you're in this industry, you are familiar with so many terms. But if people in our audience aren't familiar with the term kinship, that is a family member taking in another family member. So grandparents raising grandchildren, or aunts raising their nieces and nephews.
That can also be a neighbor.
Yeah.
Sure. There you go.
It's not,
Doesn't have to be family.
They're getting very creative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Kinship is a relationship prior to a child entering into foster care. So it could be mom's best friend. It could be, like just a connection.
Oh, that's interesting.
Somewhere. Yeah.
I didn't realize it involved more of the community, but that's a nice thing. Because sometimes those connections are maybe more important even.
Yeah. Well,
deeper.
with kinship care too, it's a little bit, I guess, trickier because they're not foster parents. They don't have to be they don't have to be licensed to provide care to these kiddos because they know them. And so there's a lot of resources available to kinship parents that they're not even aware of. So when it comes to like that support, we also, we refer to community resources such as More Than a Bed for some of those resources, but we can also help at La Paloma guide them through what the child welfare system looks like. And if they're interested, they themselves can become licensed foster parents to continue to provide these children care. But it provides a lot of that education about what's going on in the system the child is involved with.
That's great. I know in the past, and I don't have all my figures, but I know that, for example, if you're a foster parent, you can get some stipend, a monthly stipend, to help cover the costs
from the state
for your child. Yes, through DES. And then it was, I don't know, anywhere between maybe $600 and $800 a month. But the kinship, I always want to call it kinship was $75. And I know this year, earlier on, Governor Ducey said he's going to match it, try to get it matched to kinship.
Yeah.
So, or that the two would be the same. So it'll be interesting. Do you know anything on that? Or
just yesterday, we were at a FACT meeting, which is Foster and Adoptive Council of Tucson. Both Grace and I were there. And there's a bill trying to be passed through now where instead of $75, I think they said it would be $300, which is a large jump, but $300 to help provide things for a child in your care. As any parent can probably tell you, it costs more than that.
Sure.
But that's where if they're willing to go through the process to become licensed, which they don't have to, but it is an option for them, then it goes up to what the reimbursement for a foster parent is.
Very nice. Well, it's nice to see that progress. And I know the legislature...
And becoming licensed offers a great deal of support for the children.
Oh, sure. Well, like you said, it's just the education of it.
Yep.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah, well, and a lot of foster families people in general don't understand all that is involved with the child welfare system. You're talking about multiple entities, the courts, lawyers, a lot of things that maybe not everybody knows about. The court system is not a simple one. And when you have a child involved in child welfare system, they're involved in all those systems. And so even as a kinship parent, that you may not have any experience in any of that. And working with a licensing agency, we can help educate you on what that looks like so that you can better advocate for what the child needs or what they're not getting, such as behavioral health services, which then organizations like La Frontera comes involved, which we're lucky at La Paloma to work with La Frontera because we know a lot of the services they offer. So
that is great. And I think that's what's nice about the two of you. You complement each other so well because you're providing the licensing, the training, the education, the support. And then More Than a Bed has all of the in-kind things that families need, like you say, the materials, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And the point is we are also trying to use all these resources and come together so that the family knows where they can go to get what they need. Not one place can give you all those things. It's not easy when they get to school and they need a laptop.
Sure.
Or a cell phone just to be safe, not with internet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, there are just various areas. And so we are working very diligently to connect licensing agencies and the support areas. What are we called? Supporters, whatever. Just to help these families navigate through the system with their children, because there is a lot.
Sure.
That
Complicated.
they don't know, and it's very complicated, and no one tells them anything. So I'm not poo-pooing DCS. I'm just saying DCS does not offer a great deal of information, primarily because they are so short-staffed.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, at Impact, we get some grant money from Pima County that comes through the feds in a project. And the idea behind this whole program that Pima County runs is that government can't do it all. They can do a share of something, but then they have to find agencies to help take it on. And so I think it's just, that is what it takes. The government can't do all of it. And just to process those children must take a staff as well, just a DES. So
And we don't want them to either.
and DCS. True. That's true.
Well, a big part of like what La Paloma does, we do a lot of events. We've been fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of events recently, but we are hoping to bring a lot of awareness to not only what foster care is, but the need for foster parents right now. I mean, COVID took a hit on everybody, but you're working in a very complex system that requires a lot of people, and COVID kind of shut that down, and it was scary, I guess, to have strangers in your home.
Sure.
So we lost a lot of foster parents. I think we're at they said at the meeting yesterday, I think we're at the lowest we've been in the last, I don't even know how long.
10 years, 7 years.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that is tough. I hadn't really thought about how COVID shutdown would affect that kind of group.
There were
like I
families
said,
asked to take COVID-positive children.
Yeah.
boy, that's tough.
There was a meeting I was involved with at one point in the last 6 months where they were talking about how they had to separate. They had 3 rooms, like kids waiting to be placed in care somewhere. They had a room for COVID negative, COVID exposed, and then COVID positive. But it was like they took this minimal resource that they already had and had to divide it.
Sure.
To protect, not only the children, but staff themselves.
Sure,
too.
and just reduce the spread. Gosh.
Yeah.
And there is a very ugly part of this, that if these children, if DCS cannot locate any kinship, any family members to take on these children, and if we don't have enough foster children, or foster families, they then go into group homes.
Right.
That is not a positive situation.
No.
And some of these group homes, some of these children are, age 5 and 6, going into a group home.
Sure.
No,
With
they need
kids
a
of all
family
ages.
setting.
Children thrive in a family setting. And when there isn't, children thrive in general in a family setting, but now you're taking children who did not have your typical development, right, because of various reasons, and then you're placing them in a non-family setting where they're already set up kind of to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard. But like you said, if you don't have enough foster parents, then how do you connect all these children?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I was going to ask you, Grace, about the materials that you provide. But before I go there, and I don't want to forget to do that, I was thinking about, there, like you say, there's so many foster kids. And so if you want to be a foster parent, if you think that that's your calling, then what does it take? I know you were saying you have to get licensed. So who qualifies, or how easy is it?
The qualifications it's kind of interesting because a lot of people, I hear surprising things. Like we did the 4th Avenue Street Fair just recently, and one of our flyers, one of the first thing it says is who makes the best foster parent. And the first thing says, you do not have to be perfect. And people are like, oh my God, okay, because there is no perfect parent.
No.
There's not, regardless of your upbringing or how perfect you may think your parents are. Everybody still makes mistakes. Everybody still, so that's one of the first things I say. But realistically, You have to be 21 years old. You have to be financially stable, and then be able to pass a DCS background check and obtain a level 1 fingerprint card. There's some other things too involved. Obviously, there's more than that. But every licensing agency kind of has their own way of working things. But basically, that's kind of the first steps. Do you pass those things?
But then do they have to take classes?
There are classes involved. It's an online and in-person training that educates you on what this system looks like and how to really be a good support to kids that might be placed in your care. It takes about 5 weeks. There's a home study process and all that is involved. It takes about 4 to 5 months to get licensed. And, DCS is understaffed. Well, OLR, the licensing agency in Arizona, right, they are also kind of behind. So the goal is 4 to 5 months. We do our best as an agency to make it as quick as we can by doing our part in fulfilling, getting all the paperwork done and making sure all the documents are there. But it's not an easy thing, but rightfully so. I think that the education provided not only in the training, but when you have there's ongoing training too, which helps you understand behaviors or things that these children are experiencing so that you can be there to help support the child and help advocate for what they need. Because it's not just behavioral health either. It might be actual, physical health problems going on. Neglect can lead to, needing occupational therapy, physical therapy. But knowing how to advocate for those is part of what your licensing agency would help you do.
Sure. And I know, Grace, when I first met you and you were telling our group about
what I thought we were going to do.
Well, what your concept was, yeah. And I remember thinking part of the conversation was, well, you've got your own 3 children, and then you bring in a new child, and you have to finesse that. I mean, that in itself is a challenge, I'm sure. And then provide all these materials for them so that they had the things they need. So what kinds of things are you collecting? I've seen pictures of the warehouse, and it's so fun.
Thank you. So what we've done also is that it's important for foster families to know that what we do is we provide the essentials for the children in your home.
Yes.
So that means your bio child is not going to say, well, the foster kid got a new toy. Why don't I get a new toy? We don't want that.
Sure.
It's all the children in your home, including your bio children. So you come in. The one thing I want to say is also, because it's been taking so long for the people to get their physical license to be a foster parent, as long as we get the okay that they passed they went through their training and it's in the process, we ask the caseworkers to send us an email saying, hey, this is fine, because we have to have documentation for every family that comes in there.
Okay.
Whether it be a license, whether it be a notice to provider, which comes from DCS, that could be kinship, whether it be a power of attorney that's notarized, or it could be a court document, or an adoption decree.
Okay.
All those things are important because otherwise anybody could walk in.
Sure.
So we take care of all of that paperwork and keep it on file. If they need beds for any age of child that they have, we provide them with beds. And again, that's a crib, that's a toddler bed, twin bed. Anything larger than the twin, then we have a private Facebook page that we advertise. We get donations from the outside world. Somebody's upgrading their furniture. We'll get king-size beds, a total, set
Sure.
for everything. Dressers, very important. It's tough to find dressers. I can't afford wood dressers anymore. So all of that, and all they have to do is get onto the Facebook page and be a part of More Than a Bed, and they can get anything that is advertised on there at no charge. Again, they just have to be responsible to pick it up.
So if I had a dresser to donate, could I donate it to you? You're taking gently used furnishings and things like that. Okay.
Yes.
And if I have a crib from,
please bring it in.
I have grandchildren, right? So I bought a crib so when they came to visit there was a place to sleep that was familiar to the child.
The only thing I don't take are used mattresses, such as twin beds.
Okay.
I
So the bed frame
cannot.
and the
I can take the
headboard.
bed frame and headboard, right?
Okay.
But I make sure that we have all new twin mattresses and box springs to provide to the children.
That's very cool. Do you have a community partner that does that with you, or do you just go out and have to purchase them?
Well, I found a group or a company that's the best deal in town.
Good.
So
Very nice.
we probably go through 20-ish twin beds per month, and then everything else on top of that.
Sure.
You're getting a high sign?
Oh, so we're going to stop here for a moment, and we are going to take a quick break to hear from Skip.
Today's program is brought to you by SKIP, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool. SKIP is a member-owned, member-directed insurance provider with more than 3 decades of insuring Arizona social service organizations for their property, general and professional liability, and auto claim exposures. With an Arizona-based staff of claim underwriting and risk management professionals, SKIP specializes in providing personalized service, affordable premiums, and coverage which meets and often exceeds the state of Arizona's contract requirements for social service providers. For more information, visit our website at www.sscip.org or ask your insurance agent about protecting your organization with insurance coverage through SKIP.
And we're back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm here today with 2 organizations that are helping in the fostering families industry. So we have Grace Stocksdale, who's with More Than a Bed, and Tara Beck, who is with La Paloma Family Services, or La Paloma Kids. I've seen it in just so many different ways. Is it officially Family Services?
It is La Paloma Family Services. Our website is lapalomakids.org.
There you go.
Both are kind of popular.
And if you go to La Frontera, you can click on La Paloma and get to La Paloma. So if you're looking for it, we're going to have all of the contacts to the organizations on the web page too for this episode. So our listeners who are trying to keep up and figure out how to get a hold of us, so you can find that on that same page where you downloaded the podcast. So, Grace, you've got a lot of different things. So you do take in-kind donations from the community and also financial donations, I imagine, with the tax credit.
Always financial donations. Please remember, tax credit season is not over yet. You have another few days. More Than a Bed is a qualified foster care charitable organization. So that means that as a couple filing, you can donate $1,000 off, and it comes right off credit off your state tax. As a single person filing single, it's $500.
So there's a way to what would you say, to finance some beds, some new twin mattresses if you're in the community.
That's what keeps us going, Barbara. That's
sure.
what keeps us
Grace,
going. Thank
are you
goodness.
guys still on Amazon Smiles?
Yes, Amazon Smile, also Fry's, Community Rewards. Who else? I'm trying to think. So it's sometimes
so many different ways.
Yeah,
to get.
we have. You can actually mention to your CPA that More Than a Bed is a QCO for the tax credit, and they will send that to us directly. There's a multitude of ways, and you could get on our website and hopefully find all those things out. If you want to give us some stock that's crashing, we'll take it.
Or maybe stock on the rise.
Or
that would be
stock
nice
on the rise.
too.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple of months it'll be a stock on the rise. But if you walk into our, and we invite anyone into the warehouse to see where your money's coming or going, not coming, going. We have it set up like a department store. So we have gently used clothing, and I mean gently used because any donation that comes in, there's probably 3 sets of eyes that goes through this clothing before it's put on the racks.
Sure.
Plus, we have, anytime we get some drives, some school kids, we'll have new sock drives, we'll have new underwear drive, new clothes, new toys, and all of this goes directly to the children. If we find some Ganga deals at Walmart or some other places where they're going out of season, we grab them up.
Sure.
So they have new and gently used clothing in the warehouse. We also give them diapers, a pack of diapers once a month, new toys, used toys galore, household goods for the family. We have blankets, we have sheets, we have underwear, we have shoes. and on and on and on.
Anything
it's a wonderful
any family would
yeah,
need.
anything that your family uses,
Sure.
these families need.
That's very cool. You know, when you were talking about Smile.Amazon, I thought we just discovered not too long ago at Impact that they have a registry at Amazon, like a gift registry or a bridal registry, and people register for birthday presents. So my kids could put their wish list on the Amazon registry for Christmas, my adult kids, and then all we have to do is go and say, buy that, and they ship it to them. And Impact is doing that now. So we give away layettes, and we also look for new socks and new underwear for the clients that use the clothing bank. So we just went on to Amazon and registered those. So the public can then go on Amazon and say, I want to buy this under, more than a bed, and then they pay for it, and then it gets shipped to you directly from Amazon.
And the beautiful thing is, anybody who shops on Amazon or Fry's, they can go in there and register more than a bed as their charity of choice, and we get whatever they shop, we get a 0.05% of whatever they spend.
Sure.
And it doesn't cost them $1, but we get the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's a great way.
Yeah.
Amazon's come up with some clever ways.
It's
It really
amazing.
is. Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's too fun. I know, Tara, we were talking earlier about, the theme of the show just being that we're all superheroes, all of we nonprofits that help the community, and that so many people don't even know what we do, which is part of the reason I like to do this show, is to introduce the community to nonprofits. And we've been around a long time, and people are like, oh, we didn't know you did that. We didn't know, you were even in the neighborhood sometimes.
We never heard of you.
What? Yeah, I know. I think, we've been around 22 years.
Yeah.
But I think you made a good comment earlier before the show that while we nonprofits are superheroes in our communities, who are your real superheroes?
Our jobs are difficult. I think people who are involved at this level are here because we care. But I know I personally feel that our real superheroes are our foster families.
Sure.
They're the people who are willing to open their home to a stranger.
And their hearts.
Yeah, your home and your heart, definitely, because it takes a lot of heart sometimes to get through some of those days.
And we have families that have anywhere from 1 child to 12 children.
It's amazing. I
And
can't
they're
even
happy.
imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're I would be, a little crazy, but I've got families that come in and bring all the kids, and they are so well-mannered. I get my squeezes, I get my high fives. Miss Grace, how are you? And they're just beautiful. They've survived. They have their home now, and their foster family has allowed them to know that their circumstances are not going to define who they can be.
Sure. And I would think in a family where you have a lot of foster children, which does sound daunting, they probably it's different for the kids in there because they can relate. All those kids in the family have had some trauma, or, all those foster kids have some shared experience at a certain level. And so they probably bond even differently.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes it
Sure.
pushes them apart. And
imagine.
as a family, you try to bring it back together.
Sure.
And as, I get to help be that support that helps bring that back together, bring some understanding. And like myself as a clinician, I always worked with kids themselves to understand, like, a little bit. Obviously, the brain is a very complicated organ, but when you go into it a little bit with kids, when you help them understand maybe why they're struggling, like how their environment impacted their development, I've gotten to work with some of them and help them understand why they are that way, and it really does bring a lot of hope to them.
And that was something that Tara shared with me, was the fact that, these kids have to be met where they are at the moment.
Sure.
They don't know necessarily what a family is.
Good point. Sure.
And you have to teach them from the very get-up what that means. So it takes a lot of patience, a lot of time, a lot of love. But boy, it pays off.
That's so fun. Impact adopted a group of single mothers who were living in and around Oro Valley, but who came and met once a month in Oro Valley. And so we helped these single mothers with all kinds of different resources and things, not just things, but support in many different ways. But what was interesting was many of them were foster parents, and that surprised us.
Well, and that's a thing we often get. I myself learned that as a single person, I could be a foster parent, and I was like, okay, let's do this. And then in that journey, I learned that a single person could adopt. I did not know that either. And when I was asked, like, do you want to be adoptive placement for this kid? I was like, no, I'm single, but you can be single, I learned, and adopt. So there's a lot of different ways that this family is not one thing.
Sure.
It is what you make it. And when you talk about, like, they don't know what family is, you get to help them understand a positive impact that family can have, even if it's not their biological family.
That is a neat thing, and with times changing and with so many children in need of placement.
Too many.
We do have to kind of come up with a better definition or a better system than maybe what was done 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is pretty cool. I'm trying to think about some other things that you talked about, how you become a foster parent and who makes a foster parent. So the children that don't have a foster parent end up in group homes, and then do a lot of kids make it through the group home their entire life and they just age out?
Some do age out.
Sure.
I mean, obviously that's not ideal. That's not the goal. But given certain children's life experiences, not having had like that typical family idea, they really fight against what that is, what that means. A parent to them is not a positive thing sometimes.
Sure.
And so if you're like, well, you can kind of live more independently in this group home, or we can put you with this family, well, family's negative. Like, that's bad. So I'm going to go over here and I'll just do this. The group home path is sometimes chosen because family doesn't have that positive thing. Like we're talking about family and like it's this great thing, but for some people it's not. It's not a supportive situation. It has a lot of negative connotation to it. So
Sure, and I'm sure given the experience they had too, that would be hard.
Right.
yeah,
Well, I hear a lot about foster kids aging out, so they're living with a foster parent who is getting some reimbursement or some stipend until their 18th birthday or whatever, and then it all ends. Is that correct?
not always. They've made changes. I'm not up to speed exactly on the specifics of that. As of now, I know some of the things they were working to change was continue to support up to the age of, I think it was like maybe 24.
Oh, that's nice.
Because if you think about it, your typical child with your typical family, and if you go to college, which would be a nice goal for some of these kids to have, children just in general, but they have that family support while they're in college.
That is nice.
And my understanding is that they have to stay under the umbrella of DCS.
Yes.
There are various areas. I'll say AYAP is one of them, Arizona Young Adult Program. So if they stay within or under the DCS umbrella, then DCS can help them with education, higher education, and completely paid for.
Nice.
Trade school, assisted living,
Medical care.
But the child has to ask for it.
Right. Makes sense. But that's even
at
good for us
16
to know.
or 17, I don't know. Did I know what I wanted to do? I knew I could conquer the world.
Sure.
So it's, again, it's a wonderful thing. I just not sure they understand that this is a good thing for them.
Right. And
It just means more rules and regulations, and that's all they think about.
Sure, because they've had a rough life.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
I think at Impact, that's good for us to know, though, because we do have some foster families that come to Impact, and as I said, a lot of kinship families. Mm-hmm. So to know that if they stayed with Department of Child Services, they could
The children,
get some broader service afterwards.
And we
that
know
would be
education
huge.
is key.
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, even if children are adopted, they still, when you fill out your, what is it called? The FAFSA.
FAFSA, sure.
Yeah. It asks you, were you ever in foster care? And you mark yes, and you get support in that way too. So even if you're adopted, there's still support for children who are in foster care.
Well, that's good to know. We'll have to pass that along. And that's the fun. So we appreciate you sharing all these resources and all this information.
Good.
I'm trying to think, do either of you take volunteers then? Oh, Grace, you take volunteers,
Always.
Clearly.
Always. I need volunteers badly, all the time. Either within the warehouse, because we're only open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then one Saturday a month. But that 5 hours that you're there, it's continuous. So volunteers there, and we also, the events that we have 3 events during the year. One is called Parents' Night Out, where we take over an entire church, and we usually bring in about 130, 140 kids and send the parents out for a date night.
Nice.
And we, for lack of a better word, babysit or take care of them for that 5-hour period. And that is full. We feed them. We entertain them. We have a entertainer. We have all sorts of goodies.
I bet
They
a lot
don't
of
get
people
tired.
would like to do that.
Yeah.
To come in.
So volunteers, we need about 100 volunteers for that situation. We had to cancel last year because we couldn't get enough volunteers.
I'm sure.
The other event that we have is the Christmas event, where we have it on our property early December, so not to get involved with anybody else. We have Santa. We have, again, an entertainer. We have a bouncy castle. We have presents galore. We have food. Just fun for about 2 hours for the entire family. And the third event is what's coming up next is April 23rd. We have our golf tournament fundraiser, and we're having it at Sawilo Golf Club this year. And it's wonderful. We're sold out. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
We have golf for 4 or 5 hours. Then we go have lunch and just lots of entertainment and, good stuff.
Nice.
It's fun.
And it's hard to sell out on a golf tournament
Well,
a
I
lot
lied.
of times.
We have
so.
132 golfers, not 144.
So you have a dozen, you have space for a dozen more?
I don't.
Oh, you
I
don't?
We had to
Okay.
close it down. Close it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's too fun,
So-
though. That's still a great
But next year is
turnout.
always open.
Okay, and you do it annually?
Yes.
So that's a great way to support.
Yes.
For us, I guess volunteer looks a little different. We're
I
looking
bet.
for foster parents. If you can't be a foster parent or you don't feel it's right for you, which we can help you decide. Like even if you're interested, we can have that conversation with you and see if it is a good fit for you and your family. Because if you do have children, if you do have a partner or a spouse, that's it takes a group effort, I guess. Everybody in the home kind of has to be involved because it affects everybody. So if foster care isn't right for you, being a foster parent, we take donations as well. We also, I guess the volunteer opportunities would be, you could volunteer to be like with CASA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but
Sure.
That's a court-appointed special advocate for a child. There's also the Foster Care Review Board. There's different ways
Mentor.
you can volunteer. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I was thinking La Frontera has some group homes that they...
Yeah, La Paloma has
Run.
group homes, yeah.
Oh, La Paloma does too?
Yeah, we take donations for them too. It's hard to get the children in group homes involved in activities, but a lot of it is based off of donation too. There's different organizations in the community that have donated resources. So those are welcome as well. An activity that a teen would want to be involved with. If those activities could be donated, then our kids placed in group homes could participate.
And I was even thinking, we get a lot of people who come in and say, I'd love to tutor a child. And we always send them over to the school because we don't do that. But I wondered if you did that kind of thing through the group homes or a mentor, kind of like a big brother, big sister.
I'm
type
not
of-
sure what that looks like specifically.
Sure. We'll have to look into that
Yeah.
because that would be
2 years
interesting.
ago, we had a tutoring group. And, we could go on for a couple of more hours.
Oh, we could.
Okay,
Easily.
so so we had a tutoring group, and we tutored probably about 10 kids, depending on the ages and where they were as far as grade-wise. And they excelled just because they had the one-on-one. And then COVID hit, and then everybody got busy and couldn't find a place, couldn't get the kids there, and it just died on the vine. Some point, it'll start up again.
There you go. And that was through your organization,
Yes,
Grace?
it was at More Than a Bid.
So we'll keep our eyes and ears peeled for those announcements on the website, maybe.
Yep.
I think it's something that is really interesting to people, and they don't know where to go to do it. So I was just thinking, like you're saying, Tara, if being a foster parent sounds still a little overwhelming, and or you learn more about it and it's still kind of a jump, then maybe there's a way to get in on another level.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to help. There's a lot of community partners that we work with that we can refer families to those services, which we could also help guide you to how you can volunteer for those agencies, like More Than a Bed.
Exactly.
There you go. So I'm thinking in terms of the foster kids, we were talking about there are so many of them. So if they're in Tucson, we were saying earlier it's hard to gauge how many there are, and you were saying it's the largest number in a long time. So they can't all be living in foster homes, are they? Or, I mean, where are all these children?
They're everywhere.
There's hundreds in group homes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here in Tucson.
Yeah. We're at an all-time low for foster families.
11 and change, almost 12,000, I think, in
Arizona. I think in Arizona it's like 15,000 kids in
So
care.
Pima County, Phoenix probably has 40%. 60%, so very large
that
percentage.
wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's the largest
at least
county.
half.
Yeah. But yeah, where are they all?
I know. I really wonder.
Yeah. A lot of them end up in group homes.
Some of them couch surfing.
Yes.
Sure.
They try to find kinship placements. There's some placements that are willing. We have a couple foster families ourselves that keep opening up more beds in their home just because there's a need, and we get sibling sets and we don't want to separate them. And some of it's temporary, some of it goes long term. DCS tries to find kinship placements, any family connection, any community connection that child might already have that could and would be willing to open up, even if temporarily, for these kids to stay.
Sure.
In foster care, it takes a village.
Yes.
And we need the village
Yeah.
to step up. And they're not. Just step up.
Sure.
Because these kids need you.
And especially after COVID, I think, like you were saying, people kind of self-isolated, so they weren't thinking about opening their homes to people. And
I don't think it was so much they weren't thinking about it. I think it was just a really hard time for everybody. And as a foster parent, you have so many people in and out of your home. It's a requirement when you have children placed in your care. Your licensing agency has to check in on you. DCS is checking in on you. The children in your care might have visits, and they would, I know for a short time they tried to do a lot of virtual stuff, to limit contact, but it wasn't so much they weren't willing, it was that it got to be really hard. Sure. And so rightfully so. And now the hope is that we're coming out of this pandemic, and we're hoping to get a lot more families back. Maybe they'll reconsider and become foster families again. What we're doing at La Paloma, we're really restructuring what support looks like. So
nice.
How we can really be there. How can we support you? Because it's hard. It's hard being a parent. It's even harder raising strangers, which these children are. So.
Sure. And do you have children you're talking about children of different cultural backgrounds as well?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Absolutely. People from all over, immigrants, as well as just people who live here in Tucson who are of all different cultures. So do they try to match culture necessarily or not necessarily? Is it like anybody who's, I don't mean it to sound like anybody who's willing, but anybody who is willing when there's a shortage, there's always going to be somebody that can be placed with somebody who's willing.
Well,
go ahead.
And we work with people who are, our foster families. We work with people who are thinking about becoming a foster parent and helping them determine what that looks like. What behaviors are they willing to work with? And you can have that hard line where there are certain things that you just can't, because maybe you have other kids in the home, maybe you have animals in the home, maybe, your lifestyle, whatever. We really work with the family to determine what would be a good fit for them, even, like the cultural and identity type stuff. And if they're on the fence about it, we step in and try to provide education and support so that they feel comfortable taking that on.
And I don't think that there's enough families out there that want to take on the challenge of a teen. And these teens need mentors. they need somebody to look up to that can listen to them and show them a better way.
Sure. And I think you're right. Most
Yeah.
people want the youngest.
Sure.
And then
Babies.
the teens sound daunting. You know?
Yeah.
I remember in junior high, I wanted to be a math tutor in junior high, and people were like, junior high? You've got to be crazy. You know, those junior high kids are the most difficult. And I thought, oh, I don't know if they really are. And then, you know, when you get into it, they're really so wonderful. But I think there is a stigma against teenagers, and they're independent. And
They're trying to make their stand.
Yeah.
Right, and they've been that way a long time, so they're probably a little more...
Well, and a lot of them are parentified themselves. So how do you parent a child who's been a parent?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever tried to tell another parent what to do?
Does it go over so well?
No, probably not.
That's right. We have a client who is a young lady who's probably about 19 or 20, and she is parenting 3 children and 3 younger siblings.
I was going to say her
And
siblings more than likely.
Yeah, but it's a challenge for her. So we
You
provide.
have 5 and 6-year-olds that have been the parent
Yeah.
of their younger siblings.
Yep.
Boy, that's scary, isn't it?
It is.
Kind of sad.
It is.
Yep.
Sure. Well, hopefully a lot of our listeners have learned a lot of different things. And I think just like you were saying, Tara, that you can be single. It will help you through it. I think it just sounds
Married,
so daunting.
Unmarried, you come to us and we'll help you figure it out.
That's right. Be experienced.
Yeah.
Get some experience and get some support.
And try to help you work through some of those labels placed on these kids and help you not to be so afraid of that label, because that's sometimes the label is scarier than what it actually is.
It's probably true. And I think, 6 months, if someone has 6 months to invest in becoming that person or being prepared for it, then that's pretty exciting, especially
And
with
that's
so
the
many
important
kids.
word, investment.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the most important investment that you can make in your life, is investing in these children's lives.
And I would think even what you learn through that training would help you with your own children.
Yeah.
Not that your own biological children have been through the same kinds of traumas, but any parenting tip
Yeah.
would be a positive thing, I would
Practice.
think. Yes, and then to be able to practice it.
Yeah.
The first one is breathe.
Yeah.
It's true of so many things, isn't it?
Well, the first step is to regulate yourself as well as the child. So if you remember to breathe, you can help the child remember to breathe, and you'll all be better off.
There you go. Well, hopefully we'll find some listeners who are interested in, those of them who were interested in foster care investment with their tax credit dollars now have 2 great places to consider and the contact to get to both of you. And then also people who are interested in fostering, or who maybe, hopefully this show has given them a little different edge to it, and they might think, oh, maybe it is possible, or maybe it's not going to be so scary and I won't be doing it alone.
Definitely not alone.
So that's so important.
Good.
And I think, do you have anything else you want to add before we close? Because I know, Grace, I'm glad you talked about your golf tournament. That's going to be exciting.
It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't think of anything except that,
You're good.
I'm blank right at the moment. Foster Care we are now expanding because we need to build more property to house more things to provide to the children even more, and to more children, such as we're trying to get into the group homes to provide for those teens that don't have that family environment.
And we should say, I think, even though it'll be on the website, that your warehouse is it out on Miracle Mile?
No, it is at the corner of Prince and First.
Prince and First.
And all you're going to see
I
are
know,
the
I'm trying to
numbers on the
picture it.
building, 3637. On the corner is a used car dealership. We're right there next to them.
Okay, so people know.
3637, yeah. Come
All
on
right.
in.
That's right. Come on in and bring some of those things you cleaned out of your
Exactly.
closet during COVID that are still maybe sitting
Yep.
there.
And I'm usually there, so ask for me.
There you
Look
go.
at the website. Our days of operation are there.
All right, we'll do that. And then I think, Tara, we appreciate you sharing with us all about La Paloma, and I will reach out and have La Frontera also come talk. I know when I was talking to them recently, they were talking about a new building that they're building that they're
They
getting
have
ready to launch.
a lot of housing projects that they have already. They have new stuff coming as well. So a lot of exciting things.
Sure. And I know they have a tower that they're getting ready to open for senior living, which is exciting, apartments for low-income seniors.
Yep.
So Impact will be working with them on placing some people
Nice.
in our group there. And then that they were looking at doing something for these foster kids.
Yeah.
To
Well, I guess
that age out.
the biggest thing is, I mean, we really need foster families right now.
Yeah,
You know?
big time.
All-time low.
That's it. Well, we'll see if we can take care of that. Well, thank you both for being nonprofit superheroes and for supporting the real superheroes who are out down in the trenches being the parents to these kids.
Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.